Mm.
You know, you exist when they want to market to your ass. Trust that.
Hmm.
In terms of, you know, looking eye to eye in regards to some power, nah.
Yeah. No bueno.
No bueno.
No bueno.
Okay, we are at the 9:27 mark, so we're going to have to play this one smart because I gotta call the brother on my end, bring him in via three-way, but you have to bring Brother Bob Law in via the call queue studio, and mine is still not operational. So you'll be looking for a 516 number.
Okay.
Let me know if you see that.
Yeah, I do see it.
Okay. All right. So let's bring the brother Bob Law in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait till he, you know, successfully gets in, and then I'm gonna click over and call Dr. Claude Anderson on my three-way.
Indeed. All right. So without any further ado, I want to welcome our caller from the 516. Caller from the 516-334. Welcome to Know the Ledge Radio.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This is Bob Law. Glad to be with you.
Greetings. Peace.
Good evening.
Indeed. Welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Well, welcome back to Know the Ledge Radio. Brother Bob Law, it's been a minute since we had you on.
Mm-hmm.
How's everything been going ever since the last show?
Well, fine, actually. Fine in that we are still on the case. You know, there's a book by Sweet Honey and the Rock that says, the title is Those of Us Who Love Freedom Are Still on the Journey. So in that sense, everything is fine. We are still in love with freedom, and we are still on the journey.
Indeed.
Indeed. Okay, so brothers, I want to click over on my line at this time, and I'm going to be calling Dr. Claude Anderson. I'll be back shortly. Okay?
Okay, brother. Indeed.
Tight. I'll be back.
All right. Yes, indeed. So, brother Bob Law, do you want to briefly let the family know about the event that is coming up?
All right.
With our brother Claude Anderson?
Sure. There's a forum in New York on April 6th at the National Black Theater, which is on 125th Street and 5th Avenue, I believe. And it is part of a national tour that we are developing with Dr. Anderson and myself. And from time to time, depending on what city, it includes other people. That it's looking at this movement to turn black spending into real power. It is looking at understanding the principles of powernomics, group economics, group behavior, appropriate and inappropriate behavior, group economics. Group economics is being practiced by groups, ethnic groups all over the world. It is a global. It is a global, or it is a philosophy that is understood globally and has been used historically. There's a Joel Kotkin's book Tribes lays out how race, religion, and identity determine success. And one of the key components that everybody seems to understand is group economics. And so Claude Anderson has spent sufficient time, spent the time in researching and developing and explaining what group economics is, how it applies to black people. And so we've begun to launch this campaign, which is called the $1 Billion Black Spending Power Campaign. But it's really about taking control of our own spending, taking control of our own money, and using it intelligently, scientifically, in order to stabilize black communities, in order to use what we see. We're a people who are spending over $1 trillion annually. But we don't look like it. As you look at us walking through the street, if you walk through the street in black communities all over the country, we don't look like a people who have $1 trillion to spend. So the question becomes, where's the money? Where's the money going? And the forum that we're dealing with on April 6th in New York is raising that question. Where's the money going? How is it that we are spending over $1 trillion a year and don't have anything to show for it, don't have anything other than some material possessions? There are some people who own cars. There are some people who own mansions. There are some people who, but we don't own and control any industry. We don't
Brother
own
Bob
it.
Law?
Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to check and make sure that Dr. Claude Anderson is with us. Dr. Anderson, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here. Indeed. Good evening to both of you and to Bob Law.
Greetings.
Indeed. Greetings, brother. Good evening. Welcome to Know the Ledge Radio.
Okay, I'm glad to be with you.
And so that is the point, though, that it is time for us to really understand what it means, what group economics are, and to really understand the kind of strategic thinking and planning that is actually necessary to allow black people to take advantage of the $1 trillion that we apparently have to spend, and to do so in a way that enriches our community. Everybody who comes into this country comes through the black community and is enriched by black spending. Nike acknowledges that young black men are the driving force behind their success, not just in terms of buying sneakers, but also as being global trendsetters. So everybody understands our power except us somehow. So every community, from the corporate community to other ethnic communities, everybody is enriched by black spending except black people. And so we are at a point where it is really essential that our people begin to understand what it is that we must do in order to stabilize our community, and the kind of behavior that we have to engage in, and the handling of our money. I mean, we said one thing, and I'll let Dr. Anderson can begin to tell you about the significance and the power of group economics. We've said one thing. It's just a step, one step, just one step. We're asking people to take one step first to just kind of get this notion going of every black person making a commitment to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. Let's see if we can get our people to just do that as step one. That will turn millions of dollars. That will turn $1 million easily into the black community, in various black communities all over the country. It'll turn at least $1 million back into the black community on a weekly basis, even with minimal support. We can turn some of that money back, and so that is only step one. And it's not a whole economic strategy, but it is a move to get the attention and to get our people to begin to think and behave in a way that enriches our community. But more of a economic plan and an economic understanding is what Dr. Anderson has developed in Powernomics. And so what we're talking about April 6th in New York, and what I'm talking about tomorrow in Philadelphia, is understanding group economics and what we mean by, what Dr. Anderson means by appropriate versus inappropriate behavior. And maybe Dr. Anderson can pick it up there.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Bobby. But first of all, let me jump in. I heard both of you make 2 points. One was about group economics, the importance of group economics. Another was the importance of looking and critically examining our inappropriate behavior patterns. But both of those things, Bob, they're interlinked. You can't do one without the other. But unfortunately, in our society, black people in this society have been socially engineered into seeing everything upside down and backwards. Consequently, in my books, when I talk about inappropriate behavior means just the opposite of what is appropriate behavior. Appropriate behavior should always be that kind of behavior that reflects on, addresses your particular dilemma your particular history, your particular specific situation, and your problems that you have that are peculiar to you and your people. And you must be, and consequently, the problems must also be followed by the appropriate solutions to solve those problems. But again, black folk can't do it for a lot of different reasons. They've never been able to exercise appropriate behavior in our society because of the social engineering that's been going on. And consequently, starting from the get-go, here black people are right now running all over the country with absolutely no self-interest, no group self-interest. Their interest is strictly altruistic. They're trying to save the world. You got the most impoverished, powerless, disorganized people on earth going around trying to be the moral conscience of the society. That is inappropriate behavior. It is inappropriate behavior, Bob, that anytime you live in a nation like America, which is a capitalistic society, and you can't find more than 2 or 3 black people out even understand the definition of capitalism. They keep pursuing socialism in a capitalist society. They try to swim upstream. They don't even understand the concepts of capitalism. Capitalism means owning. Is a concept that came into being about 4 or 5 years after Columbus discovered America in the 1500s. And what capitalism replaced mercantilism in Portugal, in Italy. And what capitalism was defined at that time was to be those who should try their best to own and control the land, the resources, and tools, and use other people's labor to enrich themselves. Yes. W.B. Du Bois defined capitalism in 1950 is like having 4 ears of corn. You eat one, you save, you sell one, and you save the seeds for next year's harvest. Now, in none of those instances did you hear me say a darn thing about demonstration, marches, civil rights, social integration, looking out for minority affairs. It says, what do you own and control, and what are you producing? Blacks produce zero in a capitalist society, and they're totally dependent on other people to provide them with their basic needs. We are zero producers and 100% consumers. That is inappropriate behavior. They can't make it and can't survive. I'll give you 1,000 examples of inappropriate behavior without dominating the conversation. Are you still there?
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't mean to put you to sleep.
Of course we are. Not at all. Not at all.
We're waiting for the host. We don't want to take over their show.
Okay, well,
oh, no,
go
brother.
ahead then.
Well, we do have these things that we drop called bombs. I just want to warm up the night real quick because I don't want to alarm anybody. But we're loving it. You know, I know we're warming up, but we're loving it already.
And right, one of the keys to financial. Hold on 1 second. One of the keys to financial literacy is the definition of terms, and you so eloquently explain to the audience what capitalism means. I also want you at some point, you don't have to do it this very second, but because the show is titled Powernomics, I want you at some point to explain what in fact that means as well.
Are you speaking to me again now?
Yes, correct.
You're right. Well, see, the importance of that is spelled out by the mere fact you have such a fantastic, notable personality like Bob Law on your station tonight. The mere fact he's here, even emphasizing, addressing this issue, means that something is wrong. It's something wrong. No other group has to do this. No other group coming to America has to do what Bob is trying to do right now. To spend all of his time and energy to tell black folks something they should be doing naturally and instinctively in this country. Coming together and learn how to pool your resources. And here black folk now going around and around the country playing silly games. When I'm down in the game, was it, do we want to go to separation or do we want to go to integration? A white man asked me that down in Tallahassee, Florida, a number of years ago when I was at the Hilton Hotel giving a speech. And I walked off the stage. He said, Dr. Anderson, he said, you're confusing us down here. We don't understand what you're talking about. This is back in the late 1960s. He said, on one hand, we got Malcolm X, he was talking about we should have separation, and Martin Luther King talking about we should have integration. Y'all confusing us. Which end of the stick do you want? And I said, I don't want either end of the stick. I want black folks to be able to come together any place on that stick and learn how to pool their resources and learn how to pool their resources to empower and enrich themselves. So the issue should never be segregation. It should never be integration. It should always be aggregation. That's what Bob is talking about. Trying to tell black folk you should be aggregating. That means aggregating your votes, your money, your bodies, everything you can get, put it together as a pile. Because in a race-based society, racism is a team sport. It's a team sport. You can't play and win in racism as an individual. You must play as a team. Everybody plays as a team but us. because we don't know how to aggregate our resources, our money and our dollars. We don't even know how to aggregate our votes. They sit there and listen to people telling them all the time, well, the smartest thing for black folks to do is for some of them to be Democrats and some to be Republicans. Wrong. That's the worst thing you can do. Now you further divide and conquer. What you need to do is withdraw from both parties. That is the appropriate way. That's appropriate behavior. Since neither party has demonstrated any interest in me, in my race, all for over 400 years, never demonstrated interest. When we were enslaved, we didn't belong to any party. Nobody cared about us. From slavery up until about up until the 1860, we joined the Republican Party. They didn't even care about us. We got Jim Crow segregated. And since Jim Crow segregation ended in the 1950s, we've been benign neglected. And since the turn of 2000, now we've now been the victims of hateful indifference. Neither party gives a darn about black folk. What black folks should do in terms of appropriate behavior is to withdraw from both parties. Say we don't want to belong to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. We're going to do what every other group do. We're going to vote as a block, as a monolithic group, and we're not going to run not one single candidate for office. Well, we got 41 million blacks in this country. We're going to vote as a block. We'll vote for that person, that candidate that will promise the most and deliver the most to black folk. And had black folk done that when I told them to do that 20-something years ago, they could have been the most powerful group in this country politically, because they would then had 41 million votes that every candidate would be out soliciting, trying to get, and say, I'll give black folk anything for 41 million votes. But we don't play that way because we don't have the appropriate behavior patterns. We don't have a code of conduct that teaches what we should be doing in terms of aggregating, congregating, bringing all our resources together. Bring our resources together as a vote. And as Bob says, learn how to build communities and to start building businesses and industries that are peculiar to black folk, so we can start producing jobs for our own people, rather than inappropriately raising our kids to go out and get an education and go find some white company to work for to enrich them. So that we continue to have a brain drain on our own children, teaching our children to go get an education so they can use their brain to enrich somebody else's community, somebody else's business, rather than coming back home to their own communities, building their own businesses and industries, and employing their own people. All that's inappropriate behavior. Bob understands what I'm saying. And the mere fact he has to come on your show to tell black folk to do what every group does. Every Asian comes to the country. Nobody has to come go on a radio show and tell them that they need to come together and pool their resources. Nobody tells American Indians on the reservation they have to pool their resources. Nobody has to tell Jews to pool their resources. Nobody has to tell Arabs to pool their resources. Only people have to be told that are black folk. They have to be re-educated because they've been socially engineered to seeing everything upside down and backwards. That is inappropriate behavior. Are you there? Bobby?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I put you all to sleep again.
No.
Is Bob still on the line?
Yes, we have to open his line back up. His line just dropped. He's back with us, though. Brother Bob Law?
Yes, I'm here now. Yes.
I ran him off the line.
And I heard a great deal of it. I just dropped out for about a minute.
Right, but see that is inappropriate. For instance, you live in a society. You live in a society that in 1790, with the first naturalization law after the Constitution was crafted, it says we are a pluralistic society, but we live in a society, a democratic society, where the majority will win and rule, and the minority will lose and suffer. It is totally, absolute inappropriate behavior for black folk to keep going around this country, associating with different civil rights groups, bragging about the fact they are minorities. Why would you go around the society bragging about you a loser? That's what a minority means. You're a loser. And consequently, you find blacks who come together and aggregated their resources, at least not necessarily their resources, but their bodies in large metropolitan areas and urban areas, where right now 10 cities house almost 70% of all the black folk in this area, in this country. 70% of all the black folk live in and around 10 large metropolitan areas. And in those areas, instead of those black folk learning how to appropriately act like they're the majority, they go in there and start setting up minority programs where they call themselves a minority even though they're the majority population. Total inappropriate behavior.
You know, one of the things that when we talk about is we begin to talk about group economics. See, as Dr. Anderson says, these things sound very reasonable to everybody except us. We've got to convince our people. And part of the reason for that is the kind of assault that black people are under in this country, even on a psychological level, so that we are encouraged to celebrate individualism. We like to point out how much money Jay-Z has, how much money Jay-Z has, how much money Oprah has, how much money P. Diddy has, we like to point out that there are some individuals who have crafted a relationship with white corporations, and as a result of their relationship with white corporations, they drive billions of dollars into those white corporations and receive some millions of dollars for themselves. I'm told that the Air Jordan brand alone generates $1 billion a year for Nike. And so we are very pleased with the relationship that these black individuals have with corporate America. And we tend to look at that as a marker for progress for the race. And we have always done that. We've always been a people who have been attempting to prove to the rest of the world, and really prove to Europeans and to white Americans, that we are of value and that we are of value to them, and that we have something that they can market, and we have something that they can benefit from. And Dr. Anderson, there's a term, I forgot the term all of a sudden, for people who come up with meritorious manumission. You know, the meritorious manumission is where if you do something that the slave owner can benefit from, and if you can do something that will earn you some additional merits, and then you can be freed, and that meritorious manumission still exists. We've got black
Well, in addition to that, Bobby, not only said there were 3 elements of the meritorious manumission policies that were implemented back in 1710 by the Virginia College and later on in South Carolina. And what it says basically that any black folk can demonstrate to his owner that he can produce in such a way that would be enriching to the master. He could be meritoriously manumitted, or 2, if he saved a white person's life, or saved his master's life, or a member of the white family's life, he could be meritoriously manumitted, or 3, if he would squeal on, tell on, and form on to help keep his people on the slave plantation. Consequently, between 1710 and 1866, out of approximately 366 possible slave revolts, that a black person squealed in every one of them, told just trying to get meritorious manumission by selling it out his own people. And right now, you got all these blacks who've been elected to public office, all these blacks in these civil rights organizations, and all these blacks in almost every respect in these white corporations. All of them are basically seeking, as Bob said, is meritorious manumission for themselves. They're trying to get free by squealing on, telling on, and trying to do a good job in a white company to help enrich that company rather than their own people in their own communities.
And see, the thing is that we have people even now who are of value. Their value is the money that they can generate for corporate America. They get paid in the process. They do get paid very well, although near the middle of their lives, we find that many of them have lost their money no matter how much money they had, and many of them are broke and losing their money as when they are no longer being propped up by the corporations that literally own them. But what we have not focused on is ownership ourselves. We are able to generate a great deal of money into a corporation like Nike, but we don't have a industry. If young black men are the driving force behind Nike's success, if young black men are global trendsetters, it seems to me that somebody would create a sneaker company of our own, of their own. Even the young black men who have the power and the name and the recognition, and I am told they are the people who influence other young black men. Well, if Michael Jordan and P. Diddy and Jay-Z have the kind of influence over young people that I am told they have, then why not they form their own sneaker company and sell the sneakers themselves, arrange for distribution themselves, do their own company, rather than generate sales and get paid for generating sales for Nike or whoever else. And so it is, but black people are very pleased by the success of those individuals. And what we're talking about in terms of group economics is understanding the need for us to prosper as a group, as a people, the need for us to use our power, our talent, our influence, our resources in order to create industries that we would own. That's what, and then they begin to understand vertical integration. That creates an industry that we would own. There are some industries, for instance, where black people have a unique competitive advantage. And that competitive advantage is that black people are the primary, if not only, consumer of the product. We don't even need anybody else. We don't have to please anybody else. We don't have to kowtow to anybody else to increase sales. There's nobody buying black hair care products but black people. There's nobody buying Afro Sheen but y'all. It would seem that black people could at least own the hair care industry. But instead, Asians own the black hair care industry, own and operate the black beauty supply stores throughout the country, with black people never
nail shops and wig shops too, Bobby.
Absolutely. And with black people supporting those initiatives on the part of other groups who are enriched by black spending. So black people are spending $1.1 trillion annually. But there's nothing to show for it because we don't own any industry and we don't own any of the products. We don't manufacture, we don't produce the products that we are spending this money on. Look at the black hair care industry. There are about 2 or 3 black hair care manufacturers. In Atlanta, there's Brothaz, and there's Dudley. Is a black hair care manufacturer. Other black hair care manufacturers have already gone out of business. While black people will not make a deliberate decision to buy the product that is produced by their own. See, black people say things like, when you talk about inappropriate behavior, black people say things like, see, I don't care about race. I'm just looking for the best price. I'm just looking for the best product. But there's nobody else. See, black people have been led to believe that to be concerned about yourself first is somehow illegal or immoral behavior. So black people feel that they are making an intelligent statement when they say, I don't care about race. I'll let everybody else in the world care about race, but I won't. And so I don't care about race, and so I don't really care about who makes the product. I'm looking for the best price. There's nobody else who says that. See, there are other people who I know of people who have gone to other ethnic groups with a business proposition and have been told, we can't do it. They say, but listen, I have a better product. I can get you the same product for less money. There's a brother who says this, who tells this story as he's speaking around the country about how he and some others went to some Asians to say we can buy the same product.
Asian town in Washington, D.C., Chinatown in Washington, Bob.
And they said, but no, we don't want it. And they said, but we don't understand why you don't want it. We're offering you same product faster for less money. And the merchants there told them, we're not concerned about same product, less money. We buy from each other. We support each other. And they don't have...
Bob, let me jump in 1 second at that point before you go on, because you're making a very valid point, and it's one that should be emphasized. Because, see, right now, when I did one study a number of years ago when I was taking trade missions in the third world countries, when I was the chairman for a board of governors for economic development, and I was the only black in the history of this nation to ever sat as a chairman for governors, for southern and eastern governors for economic development. And I headed up trade missions in third world countries, Latin America, Venezuela, Colombia, Africa, and all around the world. And one of the things I found out in those explorations for trade opportunities was getting into the Far East, for instance, that I found some document that showed that 33,000 Asians could brag and boast about the fact that they had become multimillionaires off of selling products strictly and solely to black people in America. Mm-hmm. But yet, on the other hand, I have never been able to find not one single black person in America who could claim that he became a multimillionaire off of selling something strictly to Asians. Absolutely. That's how vast the disparity is between having a lack of a code of conduct and inappropriate behavior, even in selling, marketing, producing goods, and who you sell them to, and who the money goes to. Black people never exercise what I call cost-benefit analysis that Bob just pointed out. They never say, like other groups. Other groups will say, I don't care if it does cost more to spend money on my own people, or the product is not as good as I might get it from anyone else. I'm still going to buy it from my own people. That's why right here in Washington, D.C., we got Asians that would drive 35 miles from Gaithersburg all the way down to Washington, D.C. to buy from an Asian store.
That's right.
Because they say they don't care about it. That's why they had Kairitsu set up in Japan, which is a closed circuit, which says we buy from our own people first before we buy from anybody else. And that's why Japan, which was a natural resource impoverished nation, that had been bombed by two bombs in the World War II, and totally devastated, lost most of their men in 1945. But yet in 20-year period, they rose to be a national political economic force in the world because they started a system called Kairitsu, which means we're spending our money with our own people, make it revolve around and around, and that's how they became empowered. Here are black folk now that never have practiced group economics. They never hold the money in their hands. You indicated earlier, Bob, they have $1 trillion passing through their hands, which makes them about the 9th richest nation on earth. But even that $1 trillion is chicken change because it's not aggregated. If you were to take that $1 trillion and divide it up with 41 million black folk in America, that is chicken shit. That's no money at all. That is poverty level money. It only has power is when it's aggregated and pooled and spent with your own people. And I keep telling black folk have no power in America, not one iota of power. All black people got is a potential for power. They would never have power until they come together, as you're saying, Bob, and aggregate and pool their resources and begin to set up a system, a vertical system, where that money will pass through their hands a number of times.
Let me just step in because, again, when the brother had asked what you mean by powernomics, and that is what is meant by powernomics, to use our money as power and to understand the relationship between the money and power. It is economics has to be thought of in terms of power, and powernomics is exactly the way economics should be presented and understood at this point in the black community. Let me just say you this. I know we're running out of time. Social scientists who have, because when we say things like this, there are people who cringe. There are people who are saying that we can't say that. You can't say that I buy only from my own. I start with my own first. That's just not right. Even though people do that, we don't want to be like that. There are social scientists who have looked at this phenomenon, if we might call it a phenomenon, and looked at how race, religion, and identity determine success in the new global economy. And there's one social scientist who looked at it who said that, and this Joel Kotkin, who said in defining global tribalism, he said he set out to examine 5 principal groups: the Jews, the British, the Japanese, Chinese, and Indians. And he said all of them powerfully illustrate this phenomena. Although each of these 5 groups possesses a very different history, they all share the following 3 critical characteristics. And I'm just going to do one. Number 1, a strong ethnic identity and a sense of mutual dependence that helps the group adjust to changes in the global economy, global economic and political order without losing its essential unity. Then he talked about a global network and a passion for technical and other knowledge from all possible sources. But it is a strong ethnic identity and a sense of mutual dependence on each other that helps the group to prosper, helps the group to survive. And each of these ethnic groups have used that group economic concept, philosophy, principles. Each of them have used the principles of powernomics. And so what we're talking about as we lay out this campaign and as we call on black people to begin to start thinking differently and think in terms of using what we have in our own interests first. I don't want to let corporate America off the hook. I'm not blaming everything, the condition of black people, solely on the behavior of black people. The black community is under a consistent attack all of the time. However, one of the reasons that we have not been able to push back effectively against this attack has been our own inappropriate behavior. And so what we fully intend to approach those corporations who are the beneficiaries, not only the corporations, but everybody that is doing business in the black community. Everybody, all the folks who set up shop in the black community are going to have to renegotiate their relationship, their financial relationship to the black community. But to begin, we think that it is appropriate that we take control of our own spending first. We take control of our own money first. Because that, as what Dr. Anderson points out, is that we're spending over $1 trillion annually, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't translate into power, stability, survival, prosperity. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything because it's not aggregated, and so it has to become aggregated. And so on April 6th at the National Black Theater in Harlem, that is what we will be talking about. People need to come out, hear that conversation, hear even more so what Dr. Anderson will have more time to lay out in terms of the blueprint, and join this campaign to turn black spending into power. Right now, black spending is just status. You know, if you go into a store, if black folk go into a store, and they disrespect you, follow you around the store, look at you like, what are you doing in here? We don't get angry and leave. We try to prove to them that we deserve to be there. So we'll spend more than we intended to spend. We like to go into places. In fact, we like to go into places where we think they don't want us, so that we can show them the mistake they're making in not holding us in high regard. We'll show you our value by how much money we will spend in your business.
In your business.
And it's like I always say, if you want to get black dollars, just pretend you don't want them. You know, put up a sign saying no black people allowed. Black people will be outraged. They will call Jesse to come picket the place. You know, they'll say there's a guy over here that won't take our money. Come picket. Make this man take our money. And so that's what we have done in the past. We have gone and forced people to take the money. They let us picket for a couple of weeks. They say, okay, y'all win. Come on, bring the money. And so what we're talking about now is taking control of our spending ourselves, taking control of our money. And we need to lay out how we can do that. What we're asking all black people just to start, just step one, just to challenge your thinking and to challenge behavior patterns. Make a commitment to spend $20 a week in a black-owned business. That's only step one of a much larger campaign, but start there. And as you try to start there, you will discover how much of an emotional break you have to make. You will discover what the psychological barrier that you have to break through in order to comfortably spend your money with your own brothers and sisters. It is not something that black people are even comfortable doing, because there's no emotional gratification in spending $100 in a store with people who already love you. See, the emotional gratification comes from spending $100 in a store where you think people don't like you. Now you've shown them your value. Now you've shown them why they should smile when you come through the door. So we are emotionally gratified by helping other people, by enriching other people. Like that is going to change their attitude about us, and their changed attitude will somehow benefit us. See, none of that makes sense. That is inappropriate behavior. So I know we've got to go. I do. If it is,
yeah, I have to too, Bobby.
Right. So it is Saturday, April 6th at the National Black Theater in Harlem. Dr. Anderson and I will be there, and asking folk who are in New York, asking folk to come out to call. You know, I don't have the numbers, everything in front of me. I have one number, 347-496-1022.
Right, that's King Simon's number.
Right, and that's the key number to call for ticket information. Let's see how much people are paying attention and how interested people actually are. You know, we hear a lot.
The real thing, Bobby, you want to find whether or not they're real serious about surviving right now. Because right now we're on the death knell in this country and in the world. And if we don't do something pretty soon, we're up for grabs. But I want you to be able to call me before the 6th and tell me whether or not you've had a significant inquiry and ticket purchasing before I get there, because Personally, I've reached a point now, I'm tired, sick and tired of begging black folk to come out and save and help themselves. If my daddy taught me a long time ago, don't beat a dead dog. If black folk don't want to come out, don't come out. And I'll stay here in Washington, D.C. But I'm coming because of you, and because I know you're going to have a substantive number of people who will turn out, who got some sense and consciousness, and who respect themselves and their race, and want to help their children and their future children. They better start doing it now, and turn out at your program on the 6th, and I'll be there if they are there. If they're not there, I won't be there either.
All right, now I know we kind of talked. We took over the show. So, brothers, we appreciate. We are
honored to have you here. Like I said, the audience has showed up. Dr. Claude Anderson, they're in the building tonight to hear both of you brothers. They have heard a plethora of information that you have had to offer. You can take as much more time as you need. Like I said, the people are here, and they are, receptive to what's being said. You even have hands up in the call queue. People would like to interact and speak to you brothers as well.
Well, no, I got to run. I don't know about Bob, but I got to run. But just tell black people what I'm saying to you now. We are an obsolete, abandoned labor class. And there was a guy named Goldhagen that did a study in 1960 after the extermination of Jews in Germany. And one of the things he said, anytime in any society that a group of people that's hated and despised and looked down on and depreciated and is basically helpless and powerless, anytime they're abandoned by their own leadership and they're disparaged in the newspaper or in any form of media, they're being set up to be exterminated. And that was by a Jewish guy that is called A Willing Executioner, if you want to buy that book. And right now, blacks have been abandoned by not only the white community, but who are now displaying hateful indifference towards black folk. And but we also been abandoned by all our black civil rights leaders and all our black elected officials. They have no interest. You will not find probably more than 1 or 2 blacks in the entire United States that would stand up and speak strictly and solely to the needs of black folk. And everyone I'm going to couch it and hide behind some broad, ambiguous terms about I'm here to represent all the people, minorities, poor folk, people of color, gays, transsexuals, midgets, humpback, lesbians. None of them will speak up and say, I'm here to represent black folk. We are an endangered species right now. And if they don't show up at Bob's program on April 6th, then Bob, don't call me. I won't show up either.
All right. Well, I know this.